The cop laughed in my face the day they chained my wrists and sat me at the defense table. Said real quiet, so only I could hear, "You ready to go away, boy?" And he smirked like the verdict was carved in stone. The prosecutor wouldn't look at me. My mom was holding my grandma's hand so tight, her knuckles went white. And I remember thinking, this is it. They already wrote my story before I even opened my mouth. Then the bailiff called, "All rise." The courtroom went silent, and the man who walked through that door, the judge who stepped up to that bench, turned this whole thing into a very different story than the one that cop thought he was in. My name is DeMarcus Hayes, and this is how one racist cop tried to bury me with a lie. How he laughed while he did it, how the system almost let him, and how a twist in that courtroom pulled his mask off instead of putting chains on me. And while you're listening, I want you to really sit with this. Not as someone watching a movie, but like it's your brother, your son, your neighbor, sitting where I sat. If it were you, what would you have done? Let me start where my day should have just been, about saving my grandmother's life. I grew up on the west side of Chicago, in one of those old brick buildings that look tired, even in the sunshine. 3 flights up, no elevator. Cracked steps. Mailboxes that never quite latch a hallway light. That flickers like it's trying to decide if the people under it are worth the electricity. You hear everything in a place like that. Couples fighting babies crying somebody's TV, somebody's music bottles breaking behind the dumpster. But inside our apartment, my grandma Henrietta made it feel like its own small world. Clean couch plastic on the cushions. Half the time, Bible by the window, family pictures on the wall. I wasn't perfect, but I stayed out of trouble. I played ball at school, helped at the youth center, worked part-time when I could try to keep my little brother and sister on track. And most days, I was the one looking after Grandma when my mom was pulling doubles at the diner. That's who I am. That's the part that never shows up in those reports. That morning, the sky was pressed low gray rain sliding down the glass, like the city was tired. Grandma said she felt a little off, but tried to brush it away. I watched her breathe, watched her swallow, like it hurt, watched the color drain from her face. You ever see the strongest person in your life suddenly look breakable? Yeah, that feeling. "Grandma, I'm calling 911, I said. "Baby, don't make a fuss," she whispered, hand on her chest, voice thin. "Just get my pills. I'll be fine." But I could see it. She wasn't fine. I called. Told the operator my grandmother was having trouble breathing. Heart condition, 3rd floor apartment back stairwell. "Is tricky, please hurry." The operator was calm. Professional said, "Help is on the way. Stay with her. Keep her comfortable." While I'm talking, I can hear the neighbors across the hall screaming at each other again. Doors slamming, something shattering. Same chaos, different day. Only this time. Because while the ambulance was getting sent for my grandma, another call went out from our building. Domestic disturbance, yelling, glass breaking. And the man who picked that call up, who slid into that role like he'd been waiting his whole life to play, it was Officer Ronald McDial. I didn't know his name yet, just saw him as another cop at the time. Later I'd find out he had a reputation, the kind of officer who loved being tough on crime, especially in neighborhoods that looked like mine, the kind who saw every young black man as a case waiting to be made. Guys like him walk like they own the sidewalk, and the badge is just an accessory to their ego. The paramedics got to us first, pushed through the stairwell with their gear already talking in numbers and abbreviations. One of them knelt by Grandma. Checked her pulse. Her breathing glanced at me with that look that says we're worried, but trying not to panic you. They got her on a stretcher, hooked up oxygen monitors. Everything moving fast. Out in the hallway, I heard a different voice, sharp, hard. Chicago PD, open the door. Pounding on the unit across the hall, raised voices. A door slammed in his face. That was him. That was McDial. Even from inside, I could hear his tone, annoyed, insulted, like how dare a poor family not cooperate with his sense of control. The medic closest to me said, "We have to go now. Grab her meds ID, anything important, meet us downstairs." So I ran. I grabbed the pill bottles off the counter. Her wallet, a sweater. She always liked trying not to think about her chest rising too slow, her lips too pale. I pulled the apartment door behind me, juggling everything in my hands, mind only on getting back to her. Key detail, I thought it latched. I didn't check. That was my mistake. Human small, the kind anyone could make when someone they love is being wheeled into an elevator struggling to breathe. But to the wrong cop, a tiny mistake is an open door and a blank page. At the hospital, air is colder. Time stretches. Machines beep. Nurses move. A doctor finally comes and says, "She's stable for now, but it's serious. We're keeping her." I'm sitting in a plastic chair in that waiting room that always smells like bleach, and old coffee hands, still sticky with fear, eyes burning from no sleep. Then I feel a shadow, and I smell uniform, that mix of rain leather and ego. I look up. It's him. He doesn't say, "How's your grandmother?" He doesn't say, "We're just following up." He stands in front of me like a teacher catching a kid cheating and says, "You DeMarcus Hayes." "Yes, sir," I answer automatically because where I come from, you say, "Sir," even when your gut is screaming. He pulls out this tiny plastic bag between his fingers. There's white dust in it. He holds it like Exhibit A, like a trap already sprung. "We found this in your apartment," he says. "You want to tell me what it is?" My heart stops for a second, not because I'm guilty, but because I know exactly what it looks like. Because I know how stories like this end for people who look like me, even when they swear up and down that it isn't theirs. I've never seen that before. I say words tripping over each other. "That's not mine. I don't do drugs my grandma, she doesn't allow." He cuts me off with this little laugh. "Look, don't play me. Bag like this, residue like this. That's not grandma's vitamins. We test it. We get a positive that's possession, maybe intent. You're on the radar now. I called 911 for my grandma." I try again. "You can ask, check the call, the paramedics, He leans closer, voice low, full of that calm cruelty some people specialize in. "You called 911 and left your door open in that neighborhood with this lying around, and you want to pretend you're some kind of saint. Don't insult me." And then he does it. He smirks, taps the bag with his finger. "Next time you want to play pharmacist," he says, "maybe don't do it in front of your grandma." He turns his back and walks away before I can say another word. Pattern interrupt. That's the moment I realize this man is not confused. He's not mistaken. He's not investigating. He's building a story, and I'm his favorite kind of character. If it were you in that chair watching a man with a gun and a badge dangle your future between two fingers, what would you have done? Chase him down and scream in the hospital lobby? Or sit there frozen because you know how fast disturbance becomes? Resisting for guys who look like you. I sat there, and that silence followed me home. Days pass in a blur. Grandma is in and out of intensive care, hooked up to more wires than I can count. My mom comes straight from the diner with tired eyes and coffee breath, trying to be everywhere at once. I'm juggling school calls, hospital updates, rent worries, just trying to hold the day together with both hands. Then the letter shows up. It's thick, official, heavy in my palm. I open it, and the words might as well be in neon. The state is charging me with possession of narcotics with intent to distribute. Court date set. Cook County Courthouse. My mom reads over my shoulder. I hear her breath catch. "Lord," she whispers, hand to her mouth. "Where are we gonna get money for a lawyer, baby?" I didn't do this, I say, heart racing. I swear to you, I swear. She looks at me dead on, like only a mother can. I know, she says. But the fear in her eyes isn't about trusting me. It's about not trusting them. You know what I mean. Then the calls start. One from the Assistant District Attorney Bradshaw, talking fast and hard, telling me I should come in, cooperate, work it out in court. No concern, just procedure, just a file. I hang up feeling like the walls in our tiny living room just got closer. Pattern interrupt, help shows up in a place we didn't expect. One of the nurses from the hospital heard the way that cop talked to me, saw my face, didn't like what she saw in his. She calls a friend who calls a woman named Janelle. Community organizer knows the system, knows the streets, knows the names of certain cops a little too well. Janelle calls us. I've seen this pattern, she says. If you're telling me he said that, and if he's the one who found the drugs, you need a real lawyer, not a public defender with 200 cases. I know someone. That's how we meet. Attorney Benjamin Consincade. His office isn't fancy. Old building, second floor, smells like paper and determination. He listens, really listens. While I walk him through the whole thing. Grandma's heart. The 911 call, the neighbors' fight, the open door, the hospital confrontation, the letter. You in any kind of trouble before this? He asks. No, sir, not even detention. I hoop, I help at the center. I go to class, I go home. He nods slowly, like pieces are lining up in his head. I've heard about McDial, he says. He makes numbers. He knows how to write reports. He also has a trail of complaints that vanish when they hit the wrong desk. If you're straight with me, this is dirty. He takes my case pro bono. He doesn't promise a miracle. He promises a fight. Meanwhile, Officer McDial is at his station bragging, telling his version, painting me like I'm a slick punk dealer hiding behind a sick grandma. Some of the older guys laugh along, but not everyone. This is where another piece of the story steps in. Officer Tim Rodriguez. Younger Latino, still has a conscience that hasn't been beaten down yet. He's seen some of Ronnie's shortcuts. He hears how he talks about my case. He doesn't say anything that day, but it sticks to him like smoke. The preliminary hearing comes around. We walk into the courthouse scared, but trying to look strong. My mom in her best blouse. Grandma in a wheelchair. Janelle in the back row, my lawyer with a stack of folders. My stomach flipping. I'm looking at those walls, thinking about every story I ever heard, where once you get in the system's mouth, it doesn't spit you back out. McDial walks in, pressed and polished. Ada Bradshaw stands beside him, file in hand, every inch the professional. They look like a team. I catch him smirking at me again. Same message. You're done. The judge steps in. Judge Wong. Firm, respected. The state lays out the charges. Bradshaw calls me a danger in careful legal language. My lawyer challenges the search, mentions the missing body cam. McDial's reputation. Judge Wong listens with that tight, neutral expression. Then she says there's an unforeseen issue and she must recuse herself. Case reassigned. Short recess. We're confused. My lawyer is frowning. We come back in, and the bailiff says, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Evan Matthews." Twist. He walks in and the whole room changes. Black judge, mid-50s, serious. No nonsense. I've heard about him. Folks in the neighborhood talk about that one judge who doesn't automatically side with the badge, who actually reads who's thrown out cases when cops got sloppy. To some officers, his name is a problem. To us, it's like hearing there might actually be an adult in the room. I look at Ronnie, and for the first time I see it. His face tightened, smirk, gone, recognition flickering in his eyes. He knows this isn't his usual audience. Matthews takes the bench flips through the file, and when he looks up, his gaze hits different. "This is a preliminary hearing for the People versus DeMarcus Hayes," he says. "Ms. Bradshaw, you assert you have clear evidence. Mr. Consincade, You assert concern about the manner in which that evidence was obtained. We'll proceed. But let me be very clear. In my courtroom, procedure matters. He asks about the body cam. Ronnie says it malfunctioned. Matthews doesn't hide his skepticism. Interesting timing, he says softly, but the whole room hears it. He explains that at this stage the bar is low and he can't just dismiss. He pushes us toward trial, but he does something important. He puts everyone on notice. If the defense claims misconduct, he says, looking at my lawyer, but also right through Ronnie, bring me evidence. It's not freedom, but it's not a rubber stamp either. Out in the hallway afterward, my knees still shaking. That's when Rodriguez approaches. Out of uniform, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else but standing in front of a defendant's family. I'm Officer Rodriguez, he says. I just wanted to say, not everyone at the department is okay with what's going on. My mom narrows her eyes. What does that mean? He glances around, voice low. I've seen things with Officer McDial. I've heard him brag. If your lawyer wants to talk, I might have something. I'm not trying to be a hero, but this doesn't sit right. That's another crack. 2 weeks to trial. Consincade turns his office into war mode. Janelle helps track down security cameras. We file requests for records, dispatch logs, prior complaints. Rodriguez meets with my lawyer in a coffee shop, pale, but determined. Explains what he heard, how he saw Ronnie come back to the station at a weird time that lines up too neatly with my evidence. We get grainy footage from a corner store that shows Ronnie's car pattern not matching his statement. It's not cinematic, but it's enough to smell like a lie. Stick around. My lawyer tells me half joking, half serious. Because what happens next, if this judge is who I think he is, might blow someone's whole story up. Trial day. The courtroom's fuller. Word got around. Possible cop misconduct. Young black defendant. Black judge. Reporters in the hallway, curious eyes in the pews. Grandma is there, stubborn, frail, but shining. My mom is next to her, hand on my shoulder before I stand, like she wants to transfer her strength straight into my spine. Matthews lays out the rules for the jury, reminds them I'm innocent until proven guilty. You can tell which ones believe that and which ones don't. Just by the way they look at me. Prosecution goes first. They call the lab tech. Yes, the baggie has cocaine residue. No fingerprints. That detail hangs there. They call the 911 operator, who confirms the call about my grandmother came from my number. Bradshaw tries to twist it into me using a medical crisis to hide drugs. Some jurors buy the tone, some don't. Then they call Ronnie. He takes the stand like it's his stage. Talks about a rough neighborhood. Talks about training. Talks about an open door, a baggie in plain sight, a protective sweep. Says the camera didn't work. Says he did everything by the book. If you didn't know better, you might believe him. Then my lawyer stands. Officer McDial, he says. Voice steady. The domestic disturbance you were called for that day, that was for a different apartment, correct? Yes. And you did not see or hear violence coming from Mr. Hayes's unit before entering, correct? The door was open. That constitutes just yes or no. He doesn't like that. But he answers. They walk through it. No warrant. No partner. No camera. A curious patrol log that shows him going back to the station at a time his report suggests he stayed on scene. Can you explain the discrepancy, my lawyer asks. Dropped off paperwork, he says quickly. No other reason. My lawyer presses, lets the silence hang. Bradshaw objects when he hints at planting evidence, but the jury already heard the suggestion. Then it's our turn to build. Rodriguez takes the stand. He's sweating, but he tells the truth. That he's seen patterns that he heard Ronnie brag about using an old baggie to lock someone in, that he saw his movements that day. Didn't match his official story. Bradshaw tries to tear him down, calls it hearsay, calls him bitter. Matthews allows just enough of it in to make the room uncomfortable. We roll the corner store footage. The jury sees Ronnie's car, sees the times, sees how the story doesn't line up. It's not Hollywood clear, but it's real, and it's ugly. Finally, I testify. I tell them about my grandma, about the 911 call, about leaving the door while I chased the stretcher about the hospital hallway, and the way he talked to me like I'd already been processed. I tell them I've never sold, never used, never brought that poison into the only safe place my family had. I'm not eloquent. I'm just honest. I look at them and say, if he can lie about me this easily, and if no one checks him, how many people like me end up where you're about to send me for something we didn't do? Do you think that's fair? Closing arguments come. Bradshaw leans into fear, talks about drugs destroying communities, talks about how the baggie was in my home, as if that is all they need. She doesn't talk about how it got there, because that part doesn't work as well for her. My lawyer leans into facts. No warrant, no body cam, no fingerprints. A cop with a history and a motive. An officer willing to risk his career to testify against him. A judge who warned them procedure would matter. If you cannot trust the way the evidence was created, he says you cannot trust the evidence. And if you cannot trust it, kultur, you do not use it to end a young man's life. The jury goes out. Those hours are some of the longest of my life. 2 days, in fact. 2 days of my family half breathing. When they come back, my hands are shaking so bad, I have to lock them together. On the charge of possession of narcotics with intent to distribute, the foreperson reads, we find the defendant DeMarcus Hayes, not guilty. For a second, I think I misheard. Then my mom breaks. Grandma cries. My lawyer exhales like he just dropped a weight. I feel my chest cave in and fill all at once. Matthews looks at me and says, you are free to go, Mr. Hayes. Then turns his eyes to the other side of the room. And this court will always expect full honesty from every agent of the law who enters it. Ronnie's sitting there, jaw clenched, eyes wild, like this wasn't in his script. You think that's the end? Roll credits. Justice served. Yeah, that happened. But it didn't end there, because eyes were on this case. Internal Affairs was watching. The community was watching. Reporters were asking why another case with this same officer had no camera, no partner, a suspiciously convenient baggie. Investigations start. Quiet at first, then louder. Old complaints pulled. Former defendants talk. Patterns emerge. Missed footage. Copy-paste language in reports. Same neighborhoods. Same type of suspects. Eventually, they call Ronnie in. IA, long table, files stacked like a wall. They go through my case, through others. Ask about the logs. The returns to the station, the jokes he made. That other officers suddenly remember. He gets defensive blames. Politics says everyone's out to get him. Then comes his hearing in front of the police board. Community people there. Press. And sitting in that room, not as judge in a robe, but as part of a new oversight push, is Evan Matthews watching, listening, making sure this isn't another show trial where nothing happens. Rodriguez testifies again. Citizens testify. My lawyer outlines how close I came to going away because of one man's lie. Ronnie spins, contradicts himself, gets caught in his own words. They vote. Unanimous. Terminated. No pension. File referred for possible criminal charges. The cop who mocked me called me. Boy tried to hang a future around my neck. That I never chose walks out stripped of the armor he thought made him untouchable. People ask if that made me happy. I won't lie. There was satisfaction. But it's complicated. Because this story turned on a handful of people doing the right thing under pressure. A judge who took it seriously. A lawyer who cared, a nurse who made a call, a community organizer who knew what to do, an officer who finally told the truth. It turned on luck. You really want justice to depend on luck. Now I'm in a pre-law program, studying the same system that almost swallowed me. Grandma's still here, still on meds, still bragging about me to anyone who will sit still long enough. My mom works fewer doubles now. We're not rich, but we're breathing, and that is something I don't take for granted. But I need you to think about something. Do you feel like justice was served here, or like I just slipped through a crack before it sealed over me? Do you think firing one bad cop fixes all the cases where no one had a Rodriguez, or a camera, or a Matthews? If it was your family, would you say, "See, the system works"? Or would you say, "We just got lucky this time"? That's why I'm telling this story. If any part of this hit you, made you mad, made you hopeful, made you uncomfortable, I want you to do 3 things for me. First, hit that like button, so more people see what really happens behind those neat headlines. Second, share this video with someone who still believes every badge means matic truth. Ask them what they think after hearing this. And third, drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you think the verdict and what happened to that officer were enough or not enough. Tell me if you've been through something like this, or if someone you love has. Tell me what you would have done in that hospital hallway, or in that courtroom, or at that board hearing. Because this isn't just my story. It's a mirror. And the real question is, when you see what's in it, are you okay with it? Or are you ready to be one of the people who makes sure the next kid like me doesn't have to rely on a miracle to walk out free?